The Cotton Plant Drum Warehouse site is located on Railroad Avenue in downtown Cotton Plant, Woodruff County, Arkansas. On February 12, 1990, the Arkansas Department of Pollution Control and Ecology referred the Cotton Plant site to the Emergency Response Branch of the United States Environmental Protection Agency, Region 6, for further investigation. On February 14, 1990, on-scene coordinators Pat Hammock and Charles Fisher and members of the Technical Assistance Team conducted an emergency site assessment of the Cotton Plant site. Cotton Plant is a small rural community of about 1,700 people, located approximately 60 miles east of Little Rock. The site property is on Railroad Avenue between an automobile repair garage and the This Is It Cafe and Lounge. It's across the street from the Volunteer Fire Station and 1 block south of Main Street, which is Arkansas Highway 38. The site consisted of a rusty metal storage building which was estimated to be 80 years old. The Arkansas Department of Pollution Control and Ecology reported that the storage building contained pesticides and related agricultural products stored in metal and fiberboard drums, bottles, cans, boxes, and bags. The possible presence of up to 10 containers of dioxane, a commercial brand of diethylene ether, which is a potentially explosive compound, was also reported. According to the owners of the property, the chemical contents belonged to the previous owner and were present in the building prior to February 29, 1968, the date of purchase. The owner stated that the chemicals have remained virtually undisturbed for the 22 years since their father purchased the property. In addition to the main storage building, a building used by a previous owner for selling farm equipment and various debris and machinery were present on the site. An inactive gasoline pump was located in the southeast corner. The site property was unmaintained and covered with dry, dense brush and weeds. Access to the property was unrestricted with the gate left open and windows in the storage building open or broken out. During a Level B entry into the storage building, over 175 containers and packages in varying stages of deterioration were discovered. Boxes and drums had decomposed over time, spilling their contents onto the wooden floor. Container labels and markings indicated the presence of lead arsenate, zinc arsenite, cadmium oxide, copper cyanide, MF acid, petroleum ether, diethylene ether, and other agriculture-related chemicals. The chemicals stored in the warehouse are extremely hazardous. Copper cyanide, lead arsenate, and zinc arsenite are acutely toxic. Cadmium oxide is carcinogenic, and inhalation of cadmium vapors is potentially fatal. Petroleum ether and diethylene ether are extremely flammable. Diethylene ether vapors can accumulate at ground level and may flash back to the source if ignited. Diethylene ether also has the potential to form explosive peroxides after long storage periods, rendering it shock sensitive. EPA determined that the site posed an immediate threat to the citizens of Cotton Plant. Due to potential explosive hazard, incompatibilities of the chemicals present, frequency of rain, and leaky roof and wooden floor of the warehouse, the potential existed for off-site migration of the materials present and subsequent contamination of the surrounding area. An air release from a fire or collapse of the structure would result in a much greater release of contaminants, covering a wider range of exposure to the surrounding residents, air, soil, water, and vegetation. On March 23, 1990, following approval of the Action Memorandum, representatives of the EPA Emergency Response Branch, Technical Assistance Team, Emergency Response Cleanup Services Contractor, EPA Environmental Response Team, Department of Defense, Federal Emergency Management Agency, and state and local agencies mobilized to the Cotton Plant Drum Warehouse site for initiation of the time-critical removal actions. Upon arrival in Cotton Plant, a command post was established in the Volunteer Fire Station, and barricades were set up by the Arkansas State Highway and Transportation Department to restrict public traffic on Railroad Avenue. Warning tape was stretched around the site to designate zones of hazardous materials. After securing the property, a public news conference was held in the Volunteer Fire Station to inform the citizens of Cotton Plant and the local media of the objectives and plans of the removal action.
And we are handling it as an explosive compound. What that means is during the process in which we're going to be taking care of this next week, We will take care of the hazardous compounds, the pesticides, the acids, the flammable liquids. That's fairly standard for us. The explosive compounds, we're going to have to pay special attention to. They may actually require that we evacuate, temporarily relocate a few of the citizens of Cotton Plant for their own safety. We will have to transport it a distance away from here yet. We're not sure where we're going to take it yet. We're trying to line that up at this time. When we do transport it, we will blow it up.
Following several unsuccessful attempts to contact either of the property owners to gain access to the building, the door lock was cut and the doors were opened. The area immediately around the building was cleared to allow easier access to and from the building. The dilapidated porch on the west side was demolished to provide safer building access. After clearing the site, initial ambient air monitoring was conducted. Action levels were then established for determination of personal protective equipment and required respiratory protection for site personnel while inside the warehouse. After completion of the initial air survey, a new porch and ramp were constructed to assist removal of the pesticides. A decontamination line was set up and a roll of absorbent material was stationed immediately outside the west doorway to facilitate cleanup of any possible leaks or spills. It was decided that the majority of the non-chemical contents of the warehouse should either be restaged or removed first to better assess the overall chemical situation and improve access to the potentially explosive diethylene ether. Clearing and removing of the debris scattered throughout the warehouse then began. Additional air monitoring and personal air sampling was conducted during the initiation of the cleaning activities. Cleanup technicians wore personal sampling pumps while working inside the building. Additional pumps were stationed in the east and west doorways to monitor the amount of particulate matter released from the building during restaging and clearing. Upon exiting the warehouse, all site personnel underwent thorough decontamination to prevent dispersal of site chemicals. Due to the condition of the wooden floor and the potential shock sensitivity and explosive nature of the diethylene ether, extreme care was exercised by all site personnel while inside the warehouse. After removing the debris, the boxes of lead arsenate and zinc arsenite were separated and placed into color-coded plastic bags. 2 boxes containing 4 12-pound bags were sealed into each salvage drum. After approximately 3,500 pounds of lead and zinc arsenic powders were removed, the original estimate of up to 10 containers of diethylene ether was lowered to 1 5-gallon can and 2 55-gallon drums. The 3 containers were clearly marked and avoided. The other chemical containers were then removed from the building, placed into salvage drums, and labeled with unique tracking numbers. Overpacking proceeded smoothly with the exception of one small incident. While overpacking a drum containing a solution of 37% hydrogen peroxide, the plastic-lined cardboard container collapsed and hydrogen peroxide spilled onto Railroad Avenue. The solution was diluted with water from the on-site fire hose. After testing the diluted solution for corrosivity and the presence of oxidizers and finding it neutral, the water was allowed to drain into the drainage ditch on Lynch Street. During the overpacking and restaging phase, an off-site pre-blast survey of all structures within 1 block of the site was conducted to document their condition in the event of an accidental detonation of the diethylene ether. The detonation of the diethylene ether was originally scheduled for Sunday, March 25th. However, due to weather delays and the quantity of debris and other chemicals present, the detonation was postponed. Meanwhile, several locations were carefully considered for a possible detonation site. With the assistance of Cotton Plant Mayor Emmett Conley and following negotiations with several local property owners, a safe location was secured. The site, located approximately 3 miles east of Cotton Plant, consisted of unused farmland owned by Sheffield Nelson, the Republican gubernatorial candidate, and Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. On Wednesday, March 28th, the Office of Emergency Services and the Cotton Plant Fire Department conducted door-to-door canvassing of all homes located within the 1-block evacuation zone. Each person was provided with information regarding the evacuation and a checklist to follow when leaving home. A list was prepared of all people requiring assistance in evacuating. OSC Hammock conducted a news conference concerning the evacuation plans.
What that leads us down to is it will be Friday that we are looking to do the detonation of this material, and we'll be conducting the evacuation on that day.
On the early morning of March 30th, the OSCs, the Environmental Response Team, and representatives of Union Carbide Corporation, the manufacturers of the diethylene ether, inspected the remaining drums. The Union Carbide representatives informed the OSCs that one of the 55-gallon drums, assumed to be diethylene ether, was not, and could be overpacked and restaged for later hazard categorization. Cleanup technicians overpacked the drum and staged it outside the warehouse. Meanwhile, beginning at 7:30 a.m., the Arkansas Office of Emergency Services initiated the evacuation of all residents within the evacuation zone. They were assisted by the Cotton Plant Fire and Police Departments and the Arkansas State Police. Ambulances were made available to any citizens requiring assistance. A temporary shelter was set up by American Red Cross volunteers at the Cotton Plant Elementary School. KAIT-TV of Jonesboro, Arkansas broadcast the following report concerning the cotton plant evacuation on their evening news.
It was a busy day in Cotton Plant. Federal, state, and local officials began by evacuating residents around the site of the abandoned warehouse containing the explosive diethylene ether.
Everyone should leave the evacuation area immediately.
Before the ether was removed, an area 1 to 2 blocks around the warehouse was cordoned off to prevent access into the danger zone.
The evacuation seemed to have gone quite well. Of course, there's been a lot of people involved in this evacuation. Our people, OES, American Red Cross, State Police, and everybody was involved in it. I got no report of any real problems in the evacuation. There were some people that needed special care.
Those with no place to go were taken to the school cafeteria where careful preparation had been made.
Just calling up some volunteers and saying this is what we need. We're prepared to cook and prepared to register and whatever, and we just call them up and they know what they're supposed to do and we come.
Before commencing with the movement of the diethylene ether containers, sheets of plywood were placed in front of the salvage drums on Railroad Avenue to shield them from possible flying debris. At 9:20 a.m., all site personnel, except the employees of Explosives and Diving Services Incorporated, the explosives contractor, moved out of the blast area. The general public and media were allowed to view the activities from several blocks away. The explosives team moved and overpacked the 5-gallon can first. The can was placed into a 55-gallon salvage drum, padded with absorbent material, then sealed and loaded onto a truck for transportation to the detonation site. Cleanup technicians then entered the building to remove and overpack the drum on which the 5-gallon can had been located. After they exited the blast zone, the explosives team wrapped the 55-gallon diethylene ether drum with absorbent material, placed an upside-down salvage drum over it, and attached a strap and rope to the salvage drum. Sandbags were placed at the base of the drum to direct and cushion the fall. Using ropes and pulleys, the team pulled over the 55-gallon drum from a distance of approximately 200 feet. After a short wait to guarantee the unlikelihood of an explosive reaction, 2 cleanup technicians entered the building to conduct air monitoring for organic vapors around the drum. No vapors were detected, and the explosives team was allowed to continue. The diethylene ether drum was uprighted, sealed into a salvage drum, and transferred to the truck. The petroleum ether, which would be used to ensure the complete combustion of the diethylene ether, was also loaded onto the truck. Sandbags were placed around the drums to secure them, and the truck departed for the detonation site. Site personnel, the general public, and media representatives followed the truck to the site. All non-essential personnel were stopped at the entrance to the property and allowed to view the detonation from Highway 38, approximately 1/2 mile from the blast site. Diethylene ethers were detonated at approximately 12:30. Examination of the blast site revealed scattered scraps of metal from the drums, frozen pieces of diethylene ether, and a blast hole approximately 8 feet in diameter and 3 feet deep. While the debris was removed and the field restored to its original state, a news conference was held by OSC Hammock.
All right, essentially, as you can tell, for those of you out there on the highway, what we've done is detonated the diethylene ether. All went as planned. We'll have a crew. We got some pieces of metal we're going to pick up out there, and we'll fill the little hole in. And essentially, that field will be about like it was when we left, or when we started. We'll be out here probably until the end of this next week, getting rid of these drums of material. It's quite a laborious task getting the contractors to come in here, the different hazardous waste disposal facilities, to actually take the waste away from us. So we'll be trying to do all that. There is a potential that we'll end up leaving some of the drums here. We have talked with the people with the city, and we're going to use their impound, which is about 3 blocks down the street if we have to do that. It's a secure location. The drums are totally secure now. They are in overpacks. It's in a safe condition. If we'd end up leaving them on site or down the street anywhere, they'll be perfectly safe as long as people stay away from them. So that's why we're going to put them behind fence and everything else.
On the morning of the following day, site personnel discovered a bulging salvage drum. The drum was identified as number 87, the hydrogen peroxide drum that had spilled earlier in the removal. It was decided to open the drum to relieve the pressure. 2 cleanup technicians in full level B made the entry to open the drum. When the lid was loosened, the instantaneous pressure release blew off the top of the drum, and hydrogen peroxide spilled onto the street. The solution was diluted with water from the fire hose. The runoff was tested for corrosivity in the presence of oxidizers, found to be neutral, and allowed to run into the drainage ditch. Inspection of the salvage drum indicated that the peroxide in the drum had reacted with its original cardboard container. The temperature of the peroxide remaining in the drum was measured to be 70 degrees centigrade. The drum was monitored closely until the temperature stabilized, indicating that the reaction had stopped, and the drum was resealed. Representative samples of all of the site chemicals were collected. Appearance of the individual chemicals, condition of their containers, and visible markings were carefully cataloged to expedite later identification. Hazard categorization was performed on the contents of the overpacked drums. Hazard categorization is a field analytical method for determination of similar hazard classes for sample compositing, shipping, labeling, and waste manifesting requirements. Tests were performed to check for the presence of hydrocarbons, oxidizers, halogens, cyanide and sulfide reactivity, corrosivity, water reactivity and solubility, specific gravity, flammability, and compatibility. Following hazard categorization, the salvage drums were tightly sealed, labeled, and placarded. On April 4th, the drums were moved off-site to a secure location, staged according to their hazard classes, and surrounded with banner tape. The overpacked chemicals from the cotton plant drum warehouse are presently awaiting final transportation to a hazardous waste disposal facility. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and their contractors would like to express their sincere appreciation to the citizens of Cotton Plant, city officials, and especially the Cotton Plant Volunteer Fire Department for their understanding and support during this removal action.